Esme sat at her desk, buried in paperwork. The museum was in dire straits. The budget was in the red, and the board was threatening to close its doors forever. As she pored over the figures, a small, dusty artifact caught her eye. It was one of the museum's least popular exhibits, a strange-looking statuette that no one seemed to care about. Something about it seemed to call out to her, though, and she found herself drawn to it in a way she couldn't explain. She pulled the statuette closer, running her fingers over its smooth, worn surface. Suddenly, she noticed a tiny symbol etched into its base. Intrigued, she began to examine it more closely, eventually deciphering it as a code. As she translated the symbols, she realized they formed a map to a long-lost city. The city, legend had it, was filled with treasures beyond imagination. With renewed hope, Esme hurried to her computer, pulling up old maps and texts. As she studied them, she began to piece together the clues, following the map's twisting, turning path across the page. The more she worked, the more certain she became that the lost city was not only real, but that it was hidden somewhere within the museum itself. As she made this startling discovery, she knew exactly who to turn to for help. Winston, the elderly lockpick with a talent for cracking safes. Beatrice, the shy botanist who could create diversions, was strategically placed. Sleeping flowers. And Marcel, the conspiracy theorist who was surprisingly good at forging documents. Together, they would form an unlikely crew, united by their shared love of the museum and their determination to save it from financial ruin. Marcel wasn't your typical conspiracy theorist. Sure, he spent hours down rabbit holes on the internet, meticulously connecting seemingly disparate events with red string on corkboards plastered across his apartment walls. But unlike some, Marcel wasn't driven by a desire to feel superior or a need to distrust authority figures. His obsession stemmed from a childhood experience. It had been a crisp autumn day, the leaves ablaze with fiery hues, when his grandfather, a renowned archaeologist, had taken him on a secret dig site. The air had crackled with anticipation as they unearthed a weathered stone tablet, its surface etched with symbols unlike anything Marcel had ever seen. His grandfather, a normally stoic man, had become animated. He had spoken of a hidden civilization, a network of forgotten cities scattered across the globe, their existence deliberately erased from history books. But as Marcel had pressed him for details, his grandfather had abruptly fallen silent, a haunted look clouding his eyes. He had never spoken of the tablet again, and shortly after, had passed away under mysterious circumstances. The event left a profound scar on Marcel. The unanswered questions gnawed at him, fueling his belief that there was a deeper truth hidden beneath the surface of the world. He devoured ancient texts, scoured obscure online forums, and chased down every cryptic clue he could find. The discovery of the statuette at the museum, with its cryptic symbol, felt like a personal validation. Perhaps, he thought, this was the missing piece he'd been searching for all his life, a key that would unlock the secrets his grandfather had died protecting. Marcel's obsession wasn't without its downsides. It strained his relationships, making him appear eccentric and paranoid to some. But for Esme, it was a strange sort of charm. His ability to see connections where others saw only coincidence might just be the edge they needed to crack the code and find the lost city. Beatrice hadn't always been the quiet, methodical botanist she was now. Growing up in a bustling city, she had felt a suffocating disconnect from nature. Plants, for her, were a refuge, a source of tranquility amidst the urban chaos. She reveled in the silent language of flowers, their delicate beauty, and the tenacious way they pushed through concrete cracks to reach for sunlight. Her parents, however, scoffed at her fascination. They saw a future for her in a more practical field, one that wouldn't leave them scraping by. Beatrice, however, couldn't ignore the pull of the natural world. She spent every free moment in the city's forgotten corners, tending to neglected community gardens and learning the secrets hidden within each leaf and petal. Her passion caught the eye of a visiting botanist, Dr. Evelyn Green. Dr. Green recognized the raw talent simmering beneath Beatrice's quiet exterior and became her mentor. She offered Beatrice a scholarship to a prestigious botanical institute. With one condition: Beatrice had to spend a year working at a specific museum, the the very one Beatrice now found herself in. Dr. Green was tight-lipped about her reasons, but Beatrice suspected it had something to do with a rare orchid rumored to be housed in the museum's archives. The orchid, known as the Silent Sentinel, was said to possess unique medicinal properties and was believed to be extinct in the wild. Dr. Green had dedicated her career to finding and protecting this elusive flower, and Beatrice suspected her year at the museum was part of that mission. Years passed, and Dr. Green tragically passed away before uncovering the orchid's secrets. Beatrice, however, stayed on at the museum, driven by a sense of loyalty to her mentor and a lingering hope of finding the Silent Sentinel. She pored over dusty records and meticulously cared for the museum's vast collection, all the while keeping an eye out for the orchid's distinctive purple bloom. The museum's financial woes threatened her haven, the place where she could continue her mentor's work and connect with the natural world she so cherished. When Esme presented the map and the possibility of a lost city, Beatrice saw not just treasure, but a potential source of resources to save the museum and continue her search for the Silent Sentinel. With a newfound determination, she joined the team, her quiet strength and knowledge of plants becoming invaluable assets in their daring heist. The thought of leading this motley crew on a heist made Esme's heart race, but she couldn't deny the thrill of the adventure. As she gathered them together in the dimly lit basement, she knew that they were all in this together, bound by a common goal and a shared sense of purpose. And as they began to plan their daring caper, Esme couldn't help but feel that perhaps, just perhaps, they might pull it off. Winston, the elder statesman of the group, chuckled softly as he examined the museum floor plans. "It's a good thing I've spent so much time down here over the years," he muttered under his breath. "I can navigate this place with my eyes closed." Winston's weathered face creased into a wry smile as he traced the intricate lines of the museum blueprint. His calloused fingers, thick with the residue of a lifetime spent tinkering with locks and mechanisms, moved with surprising dexterity. The familiar scent of old paper and dust triggered a flood of memories, transporting him back to a time when the museum wasn't just his workplace, but his refuge. He was a young man then, barely out of his teens, when he stumbled upon the museum, a fugitive with a past shrouded in shadows. The city streets had been no place for someone like him, constantly looking over his shoulder, the weight of a mistake clinging to him like a suffocating fog. Desperate for shelter, he'd sought refuge in the cavernous halls of the museum, drawn by an inexplicable allure. He'd spent his days hidden in the labyrinthine basement, the echoing silence a balm to his troubled soul. He'd found solace in the company of dusty artifacts, each object a whisper of history, a testament to a time far removed from his own turmoil. Nights were spent deciphering the museum's intricate ventilation system, his nimble fingers instinctively learning its every twist and turn. He became a phantom, a shadow flitting through the darkened halls, the museum's forgotten custodian. One night, his refuge was shattered. A frantic pounding echoed through the air, pulling him from his self-imposed exile. It was the night guard, a gruff old man named Henry, his face pale with fear. A priceless artifact, a ruby necklace rumored to have belonged to a legendary queen, had vanished from its display case. Panic clawed at Henry's voice, the threat of losing his job hanging heavy in the air. Winston, moved by the old man's desperation, felt a flicker of redemption stir within him. He knew the museum's underbelly better than anyone. He volunteered his expertise, his nimble fingers dancing across the security system with practiced ease. Hours melted away as Winston traced the path the thief must have taken, his past experiences mirroring the criminal's methods. Finally, in a hidden compartment behind a malfunctioning display, he found the missing necklace. The return of the stolen artifact became a turning point. Henry, eternally grateful, vouched for Winston, securing him a position as the museum's night watchman. Over the years, Winston rose through the ranks, his knowledge of the museum's every nook and cranny becoming legendary. He never forgot his past, the weight of it a constant reminder of the path he'd chosen. The museum, once a refuge, had become his home, and he was fiercely loyal to it, dedicated to protecting its treasures from those who might seek to exploit them. Beatrice, always quiet but intense, studied a tattered map, her brow furrowed in concentration. If the city is hidden within the museum, she said slowly, then we'll need to find a way to bypass the security systems. I've been working on a sedative that should knock out the cameras and alarms long enough for us to slip past unnoticed. Marcel, his eyes gleaming with excitement, produced a stack of forged documents and began passing them around. I've managed to acquire the necessary paperwork to make this all look legitimate, he boasted. No one will suspect a thing. As they continued to plan their heist, Esme couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and admiration for her newfound crew. Despite their diverse backgrounds and quirky personalities, they all shared a deep love for the museum and a determination to save it from financial ruin. And as they worked together, their camaraderie began to grow, a bond forming between them that transcended their individual differences. The night of the heist finally arrived, and the crew assembled in the darkened hallway outside the museum's vault. Winston cracked the lock with ease, and they all exchanged nervous glances as they crept inside. The air was thick with anticipation as they searched for the hidden chamber that held the key to the city. Finally, after what seemed like hours of searching, they found it, a small, hidden panel in the wall, concealed by a painting that had been hanging crooked for years. As Esme slid the painting aside, revealing the hidden panel, a sense of triumph surged through her. They had done it. They were about to uncover the secret that had eluded scholars for centuries. Marcel, his hands shaking with excitement, inserted the key into the panel and turned it. With a click, the panel swung open, revealing a hidden staircase leading down into the darkness. One by one, they descended into the depths of the museum, their flashlights casting eerie shadows against the walls. As they continued down the stairs, the air grew warmer and more humid, and the sounds of jungle wildlife filled their ears. They knew they were getting close. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, they emerged into a lush, verdant world unlike anything they had ever seen. The city of gold, hidden within the museum all along, spread out before them. As they ventured deeper into the city, the air grew thick with the scent of exotic flowers and unfamiliar spices. Towering structures, built from a strange, shimmering gold that seemed to glow faintly in the dim light, rose on either side of them. The architecture was unlike anything they had ever seen, a blend of organic curves and geometric shapes that seemed to defy gravity. Esme ran her hand along the cool surface of a wall, marveling at the intricate carvings that adorned it. They depicted scenes of a bustling civilization, people dressed in flowing robes tending to lush gardens or gazing up at the night sky with an air of reverence. Suddenly, Beatrice gasped, stopping short. "Look at this!" she exclaimed, pointing to a series of murals painted on the wall of a nearby building. The murals depicted a complex system of canals and waterways that snaked through the heart of the city. In the center, a magnificent palace glittered in the golden light, its spires reaching towards the unseen sky. "This must be the royal palace," Marcel whispered, his voice filled with awe. "Imagine the treasures that must be hidden within." The crew stood in awe, taking in the beauty and majesty of the place. Winston breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that their efforts had not been in vain. Beatrice bent down to examine a delicate flower, marveling at its vibrant colors and intricate design. And Marcel, his eyes gleaming with excitement, began to take notes and photographs, already planning how he would share this incredible discovery with the world. As they explored the city, they discovered that it was not only a work of art in and of itself, but also a testament to the resilience and determination of those who had created it. Despite being hidden from the world for so long, it had survived, waiting patiently for someone to find it and give it the recognition it deserved. And as they walked through its streets and admired its architecture, they knew that they had been chosen to bear witness to something truly extraordinary. As night fell, they made their way back to the museum, their pockets filled with gold, and their hearts filled with a newfound sense of purpose. They had saved the museum, and in doing so, they had saved the city. And as they returned to their normal lives, they knew that they would never forget the adventure they had shared, the secrets they had uncovered, and the bond they had formed as a crew. For they were now part of something greater than themselves, part of a story that would be told for generations to come. Euphoria hung heavy in the air as they emerged from the hidden entrance, blinking in the sterile light of the museum hallway. The weight of the gold they carried felt insignificant compared to the weight of their secret. They had done it. They had saved the museum, not just financially, but from the clutches of obscurity. Esme, ever the pragmatist, knew the real work was just beginning. The city held the potential to transform the museum, but it also presented a complex challenge. How could they reveal their discovery to the world without exploiting the city's secrets, or jeopardizing its fragile ecosystem? The following weeks were a whirlwind of meetings and planning sessions. Esme contacted a team of archaeologists and anthropologists, sworn to secrecy with the promise of a groundbreaking discovery. Together, they devised a plan to carefully excavate and document the city, ensuring its preservation for future generations. Meanwhile, Marcel, surprisingly adept at public relations, perhaps his outlandish theories had a foundation in persuasive rhetoric, crafted a press release that sent shockwaves through the archaeological world. News of a lost city, discovered within the walls of a small-town museum, was a global sensation. Tourists flocked to the museum, eager to catch a glimpse of the hidden wonder. The museum, once on the brink of closure, was now a thriving institution. New exhibits showcased artifacts from the city, alongside educational displays explaining its history and cultural significance. Educational programs for children sparked a love for archaeology and exploration. The museum gift shop, once filled with dusty postcards, now overflowed with replicas of golden jewelry and intricately woven tapestries. However, the newfound fame wasn't without its challenges. The influx of visitors strained the museum's resources. Security measures had to be ramped up to protect the priceless artifacts. Esme found herself constantly navigating the demands of the press, ensuring the city's secrets remained protected while still providing the public with a taste of its wonders. One evening, amidst the chaos of a fundraiser gala held within the museum walls, Esme found herself standing before a portrait of the museum's founder, a stern-faced woman with a glint of adventure in her eyes. "I think we did all right, wouldn't you agree?" Esme whispered, a smile playing on her lips. The news of the city's discovery spread like wildfire. Esme, bombarded by interview requests, struggled to keep up. Initially, there was widespread disbelief. Conspiracy theorists like Marcel, ironically, found themselves on the receiving end of skepticism. "Lost city in a museum? Ridiculous!" scoffed internet commentators. Archaeological societies demanded proof. Reputable news outlets called for independent verification. Beatrice suggested a measured approach. They released a few carefully chosen photographs, a breathtaking vista of the city skyline, a close-up of an intricately carved golden artifact. The photos, undeniably real, sent shockwaves through the academic community. Overnight, Esme found herself thrust from obscurity into the international spotlight. Documentaries were commissioned, books were planned, universities clamored for her expertise. The museum, once on the brink of closure, was suddenly swimming in donations. Crowds lined up for blocks, eager to glimpse the golden wonder within their own city. Esme, overwhelmed but determined, realized they had a responsibility. Working with a team of archaeologists, they meticulously documented their findings, ensuring the city's legacy was preserved not just in gold, but in knowledge. However, the discovery wasn't universally celebrated. Treasure hunters, their eyes gleaming with dollar signs, descended upon the museum. Governments with claims to the land where the city originated demanded a share of the spoils. Lawsuits loomed, threatening to engulf the museum in a legal quagmire. Marcel, for once, proved invaluable. Using his network of conspiracy theorists, he unearthed a trove of historical documents that hinted at a treaty between the city's founders and a long-extinct indigenous tribe. With the help of anthropologists, they tracked down descendants of the tribe, scattered across continents. A tense meeting was held at the museum. Esme, nervous but resolute, presented their findings. The tribal representatives, initially wary, were moved by the crew's respect for the city and their efforts to preserve its history. An agreement was reached. The museum would act as a steward, protecting the city while sharing its knowledge with the world. The gold would be used to fund education and cultural preservation for the tribe. The public outcry against the museum dwindled. Instead, a sense of awe and respect prevailed. The discovery of the lost city wasn't just about gold, it was about unearthing a forgotten past, connecting with a lost civilization, and forging an unexpected bond between a museum, a ragtag crew, and the descendants of a forgotten people. Years passed, and Esme, now the museum's curator, often found herself thinking about the night they had found the city of gold. She would stand in front of the exhibit, watching the tourists marvel at its beauty, and she would feel a sense of pride knowing that she had been there when it was discovered. She had seen the look of wonder in Marcel's eyes as he had studied the intricate details of the architecture, and she had felt the thrill of exploration run through her veins as they had walked through the lush gardens and winding streets. One day, a young boy approached her, his eyes filled with curiosity. He asked her about the city of gold, and she smiled, thinking of the day they had found it. As she told him the story, her voice filled with the same awe and excitement she had felt all those years ago, and she knew that the magic of the city would live on, passed down from generation to generation, just like the tale of the courageous crew who had discovered it. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, consider subscribing to stay updated with our latest stories, give us a like if you want to see more, and drop a comment below to let us know your thoughts.